Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Plan Commission ARB for April 18th. Anyone in the audience or attending virtually, if you wish to speak at the appropriate time, raise your hand. We'll acknowledge you here or acknowledge you electronically also. Anissa?
Chairman Steve Lichtenfeld,
Here.
City Manager David Gibson,
Here.
Carolyn Gatus,
Here.
Robert Denlow, Helen DeFate,
Here.
Kami Waldman,
Here.
Ira Berkowitz.
Okay. We have minutes from the previous meeting on April 4th. Are there any changes or additions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to old business, and that is 600 Francis Place. Do we have the applicant here? Oh, he is remote.
Hello,
Okay, Mr.
I'm here.
Musial?
yes,
Okay, thank you. Welcome. We'll get started now. We'll have the staff report first.
Good evening, Anissa Cumro, Principal Planner with the City of Clayton. This project was held at the April 4th meeting in order for the applicant to attend. The 16,271 square foot property is located on the north side of Francis Place, just west of the city's eastern boundary. The project consists of the installation of 3 retaining walls to replace the existing failed retaining walls. The planned locations of the walls are along the existing driveway, along the front porch, and along the western side of the home. Due to the steep grade of the property along the driveway, the wall along the driveway will reach a height of 12 feet, with the length of this wall totaling 24.5 feet. The walls are proposed to be constructed from vintage 6 Rockwood modular block, and the project also includes the removal and replacement of the existing cracked concrete walkways with modular pavers. The ARB prefers the use of masonry walls in front yards. However, modular block walls are allowed if they include 3 different block sizes, a varying color pattern, and tumbled edges. The proposed walls conform with this requirement, and staff's recommendation is to approve as submitted.
Thank you. Mr. Musial, do you have anything to add to the staff report?
no, just I apologize for missing the last meeting. I had it at Thursday, which is when Webster Groves has their ARB meetings, and so I got the two confused, so my apologies.
That's perfectly all right. We just simply tabled it to tonight, and we're glad you're here virtually with us. I looked at the site, went over, walked around it. It definitely needs to be upgraded. I looked at the drawings and realized that it's quite a bit of work. I feel that what you're planning to do will bring it up to date. It'll be a much better aesthetic appearance as well as a safety item. So I see no problem with it. But let's see if there are any other comments. Carolyn?
I didn't have any other comments. I think it looks great. Thank you.
Bob?
No comment.
Helen?
No comment.
Amy?
No comment.
Okay. Anyone in the audience with comments? And no one else has their hand up? Okay, well, we have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Musial, and thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to new business and item number 1, which is 21 Dartford Avenue. we will have both a site plan and an architectural review. However, before we proceed, is the applicant here? You are? Okay, thank you. Just making sure. First, we'll have the staff report on the site plan, and then we'll be ready.
This is the site plan review for 21 Dartford Avenue. The 16,000 square foot site is located on the west side of Dartford Avenue between Wydown Boulevard and Aberdeen Place. The applicant is proposing a new two-story single-family residence measuring approximately 2,500 square feet. The project meets the setback, height, and impervious coverage requirements of the R2 zoning district. In terms of impervious coverage, the existing total lot impervious coverage on the site is 37.2%. The proposed plans increase the total lot impervious coverage to 46.2%, which is under the maximum 55% total lot coverage allowed. The existing stormwater runoff, according to the MSD 20-year, 20-minute storm calculation, is 0.92 cubic feet per second. The proposed runoff is 1.04 CFS, which represents a 0.12 CFS increase. A drywall system is proposed in the front yard to mitigate the increase in stormwater runoff. The proposed landscape design for the project provides a mix of trees, shrubs, and perennial ground cover that is cohesive with the site design and the neighborhood character. Staff is of the opinion that the project meets the criteria for site plan approval, and our recommendation is to approve as submitted. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Marshall, come on up. And first, we'll be talking about the site plan review, and then next we'll get to the architectural. So to begin with, I do have a question on the square footage that is listed as 2,500 square feet in the staff report. But on the application for site plan review, it indicates 3,284 gross square feet. What is the difference? Also, in looking at the plans, it seemed like it might be in the 3,200 range as opposed to the 2,500 square foot range.
For the first floor plan, the footprint of the building. Look on A 2.1. Yeah, it's 3216. So right below the title block.
Mhm.
That was a,
So that is first floor only?
well, no, so the total square footage, if you add up the different floor plans. Second floor is 2,600. So 32 plus 26, basically. 51. Basement is another 20. 2,600.
So we're really talking about a much larger house than the numbers.
Well, and I think the
Appear
site
to
plan
be.
meant to do the footprint. I think that's what they talking about.
Oh, I see how it could be confused upon reading. Okay, well, now we know it's over 6,000 square feet for the house. Okay. Could you go through on the site plan? I guess it's A 1.0,
Yes.
or we could go to the drainage plan. Let's go there. I think that may be easier. Probably C4. And could you explain how the water is going to be held on the site and not allowed to go onto any adjacent site?
Well, Eric Dittmeyer should be online. He's the civil engineer with goals. Are you there, Eric? Let's see if you have
Is, yes.
had him on. He could-
Oh, sorry. Oh, it's green. Green. Sorry.
Eric, did you hear the question?
I did not hear Chris's response, but I believe you were asking about the drainage.
Correct.
Yes. So looking at C4, we have the two drainage area maps. The one on top is the existing condition, and the one on the bottom is the proposed condition that you're obviously more concerned about.
Yes.
We have the north portion of the proposed roof going to a dry well in the front yard, and the whole site drains to Dartford. Nothing's draining to neighboring properties. It's all going out to the right of way. So the dry well is capturing that increase so that even out to the right of way, we have a net zero differential.
So then, Eric, does that show on both the north and the south property lines? Am I reading a slight swale in there to guide the water back to the east?
Yes, on the north, there's a little bit of a swale, not much. And even on the north property owner's property line, it's all kind of being directing it to that north property line and bringing it out to the street. And then on the south, the proposed contours are kind of bringing it all along either that south property line or along the driveway out to the right of way.
Okay. Well, as usual, that's our number one question, as you well know.
Right.
About water control. But let's move on. Carolyn?
Yeah, hold on, let me get to the page. As far as the plants are concerned, I think the choices were fairly decent. A little bit more natives would be great, but that's just an opinion. I had a question about removing the hackberry tree, a 30-inch tree. Is there no way to configure that patio or that back area? There's a covered patio and then another patio and then another area. There's no way to try to actually save that tree.
Well, it's going to be right in the middle of
Another patio.
but the basement walls are pretty nearby,
Okay, so it's
probably
gonna
in
be
the
killed
drip
anyway.
line. So I have a feeling it's.
Okay, that was my main question on it. Yeah, that's really all I had on the
Okay.
site plan.
Bob? Helen?
No.
Amy?
No questions either on the site.
Are there any questions from the audience or virtually? Oh, okay. Ira, welcome. Do you have any comments? Unmute. Ira, there you are.
No, I'm on mute. I don't have any questions, Steve. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment from you, Chris?
No, I think Eric did a great job draining the site, and I think it's the way it came out. It's a lot of green space. Going to be beneficial to the neighborhood.
Well, we do have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted without any conditions. So do we have a motion?
Mhm. I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
I second that emotion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We're halfway done.
Great.
Okay, we'll move into new business item 2, and that's the architectural review.
Okay, this is the architectural report for 21 Dartford Avenue. The proposed home has a generally rectangular design that is broken down through the use of projections and variations in roof lines. The building height is approximately 28 feet 8 inches. The property is surrounded by single-family structures with the exception of Fontbonne University located to the rear. The majority of homes in the neighborhood, and specifically along Dartford Avenue, feature a front terrace. The recessed front entry with a raised terrace is a nod to this common feature, helping the residents blend with neighborhood context. The proposed house features an attached side entry garage at the southeast corner of the structure. While rear entry and detached garages are most common in the neighborhood, the wider lot allows for an attached side entry garage that does not visually dominate the site. The primary building material for the proposed home is a blended red and gray brick. The secondary materials are limestone and off-white stucco board. 2 single-car carriage-style garage doors are proposed to be painted off-white to match the limestone accents. Staff believes that the plan is compatible in terms of mass, height, and design with surrounding structures, and our recommendation is to approve as submitted. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Any comments?
I know.
We can share.
Ugh, lugging in the heavy brick and limestone. So this is a house at 234 North Brentwood that the owners, the Leakers, really have. Oh. Sorry. This is a photo of a house at 234 North Brentwood that the owners find really attractive and would like to match the materials on this. So that's why I brought in this photo. So you can see that the brick is going to be the sort of colonial pattern, red and gray. The trim will match the color of the limestone, and we'll have limestone trim also. I think everything they said in the staff report is what we were trying to try to design for, is to break up the mass of the house, create something that would sort of give back to the neighborhood with a front terrace and provide a lot of green space. So, leave that.
Well, I think you've succeeded in your goals. You're on the largest lot on that street. And at one time, I thought it was really 2 lots. I didn't realize it was a single ownership. I like the detailing on it. Actually, it looks like there's more detailing on this proposed house than on 234 North Brentwood. You have the brick coins and other detailing. And I think you've done very well in breaking the mass up so it won't overwhelm the somewhat smaller houses to its south. Even though there are some houses of this size in that neighborhood right now. So it looks good to me. All the elevations are nicely detailed, and house will look good on all 4 sides, which we don't always see.
I tried on the side elevations to still make them architectural. I know sometimes that doesn't always happen, but it worked out in this way.
Carolyn?
Yeah, I had a question about looking at the floor plan. Sheet A2.2. My question is more about the elevation, though. You have like balcony grate on the upper level for
Right.
the in the front elevation. Why not replicate that on the other side? Is there a reason not to repeat that on the side of a bedroom?
So the Juliet balcony facing Dartford on the east side.
It's not really a balcony, though, like an actual functional
No,
balcony.
well, actually, it's similar to in this photograph. There's sort of a railing to.
But it's only like
Yeah.
inches.
Right.
So,
Well, that's why they call it a Juliet balcony.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But is there a
but-
reason not to balance the,
on the other wing.
yeah,
Well, my philosophy about it's not a totally symmetrical house, and I think if you balance it visually, you don't have to actually match it over there. So, I thought that it still blended in okay.
that's okay. It was a
Yeah.
question more than a That was all I had, actually.
Bob?
It's going to be, I think, close to about 7,500 square feet total, with the basement, the first and the second. 3,600 roughly. On A4, twice as wide, I'm sorry, as
Eat the other two houses.
as the neighboring houses, you said twice as wide. Well, those houses are on 50-foot wide lots and we're 100-foot. And I mean, we're not trying to maximize the size of the house, but that was just the program. You know, it's a 5-bedroom house. And I think it fits with a lot of homes that are being built in Clayton that are 5-bedroom or about that square footage. So we felt, you know, that, yeah, it is larger, but by breaking it up and keeping the height fairly similar, the finished floors are similar, that kind of blended in. In Dartford, well, the first house is a fairly large house that's right on Wydown. And, well, yeah, the one with the wraparound porch. Oh, I didn't know that. That's where the present, oh, okay, like the Chancellor's house. Yeah, and no, I don't think there are any other houses of this size, but it's not. But I think as you look at the elevation, it is bigger, but it's not like it's twice or 3 times the size of anything around there in terms of the massing. So it has a larger lot, so we were able to make it a bit bigger. But I think to counteract that, we broke it down into different wings and added a terrace to sort of blend in with the neighborhood context.
Ellen?
Yes, I have a question. Why did you switch to limestone on the chimney for the screened porch? Everything else is brick.
Right. I do that quite often. And owners like to have sort of a more rustic feel in the back of the house. And it's a Eden stone sort of ashlar pattern, or so it just is making the fireplace sort of a focal point, and it just highlights that focal point, but the color is still within the limestone family. So that was the idea behind it.
Okay, no, it just caught my eye because the other chimney in the living room area, I believe it is, that is so prominent. And then you have on the same elevation, you can see the 2 chimneys. And the columns of the screened porch are wrapped in brick.
Brick, right.
So it was just,
an idea to highlight kind of the focal point of that whole piece, and we're making the roof, we're doing parallel cord trusses there to vault the ceiling. And, we just felt like adding more brick, because there's quite a bit of brick, that it was just gonna maybe be a little too much terracotta color there, and that would blend in with the floor of the porch. Is going to be a Eden stone type floor. So
will the retractable screens be more transparent than what you've shown in the elevations?
yes, they're
Okay.
they're gonna be kind of a charcoal gray, but they're clear view type screens, so you'd be able to see through them. But when they're down, you'll be able to see that they're,
Okay,
gray, but
okay.
it's always
nothing
kind of hard
else?
to render a screen.
No, I think as Steve mentioned, you've done a good job breaking up the mass of the building. And looking at the plat for the street that you've shown on page 1 it is the largest lot. So, yeah, it's, no, good luck with it. And I hope the clients enjoy it.
Those are two. I think they do.
Kami?
I think it looks really great. I do like, if I'm reading this right, that you're incorporating the dining room window from the existing house.
Yes,
The
there's
new
a
one?
bay window with leaded glass. I have it shaded on the,
Yeah,
The
and it's going
existing.
into the new dining room.
right, so they're gonna hopefully be able to salvage that. It's a wood frame piece. And then, yeah, we're going to install it on a new dining room.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting thing to add to this house to kind of, again, hopefully incorporate it more into the neighborhood by those little touches. I think the brickwork, all those little details and like, the circular pattern even on the back of the house is really great.
Oh, thank
I mean, I think it is big and it will stand out for that, but I think the materials and the look that you've chosen will help it blend in as best they can.
Thanks.
Ira?
I don't have any questions, Steve. I like the house. It looks like a good, nice improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. David?
No questions or comments?
I had a few other comments. I like the asymmetry of the house, which actually shows up in a lot of the houses, both on Dartford and in the neighborhood. But I do have a question that has no bearing on the review. Looking at the plan on A2.1, the dining room where the leaded glass window is really far, far away from the kitchen.
Yeah, we went around with that. We've been working on these plans for over a year and the owners just, they don't have formal dining dinners that often. So they were like, it's okay if it's a little far away.
It's a beautiful room,
But yeah, that's right.
but far, far away.
Far, far
Okay.
away.
Any further questions from either the audience or the virtual? Well, we do have on the ARB review to approve as submitted. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. When will you break ground?
Well, we're hoping probably another month and a half-ish or so, 2 months maybe.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Sure, the building permit is next
Right. Yeah, we're
and demolition.
deep in that one. So yeah. All right.
Good luck with it. No. Do you want one for the record? And I do see that you have the roof shingles. If you would hold it up for everyone to see. Mhm. Okay. And the brick color is probably very similar to 234 North Brentwood. No. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, which is 118 Crandon Drive. Anissa?
Okay.
Oh, let's make sure we have, is the applicant here? Thank you. Okay.
Okay. The 10,080 square foot property is located on the east side of Crandon Avenue, mid-block between Maryland and University Drive. The property has a zoning designation of R2 Single Family Dwelling District and is located in the Clayton Gardens Urban Design District. The project consists of the installation of a stone walkway and grass pavers in the front yard, as well as the installation of a retaining wall on the side of the home. A basement walkout is proposed for this side yard. The proposed stone material is Belgard Urbana stone, which complements the light beige and gray brick on the front of the home. The proposed retaining wall in the side yard, though not located in the front yard, conforms to the ARB guidelines for front yard retaining walls. The proposed wall is a Versalock wall in sandstone mosaic with concrete stairs leading to the proposed walkout. Impervious coverage in the Clayton Gardens Urban Design District is limited to 40%. Additional incentives may be earned based on the location and design of the garage. As the existing garage is a rear entry garage, an additional 15% of impervious coverage is allowed for a total of 55%. The proposed project meets this requirement. The applicant is also proposing the removal of the existing Bradford pears on the south side of the property and their replacement with columnar horn beams. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed changes are compatible with the home and the surrounding neighborhood. And our recommendation is to approve with one condition to be addressed prior to issuance of the building permit, that a right-of-way use permit shall be obtained from the Department of Public Works for any work occurring in the city's right-of-way. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Or you?
Hi. You must be Mr. Dunn.
I am Tom Dunn, yes.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think Anissa, it's great.
Always. Okay. I do have a question, and
Sure.
that's about what I'm reading as a circular driveway.
Sir.
It very neatly fits between the two street trees that are there. But it also seems to have a very tight radius. And I don't really understand the two different paving materials.
The radius, we spent a lot of time with the customer on this, with the dimensions and whatnot, to make sure it was to their liking. In terms of the materials, the grass paver is what they wanted to use to try to gain some permeability or some additional permeability. So we've got the grass pavers as well as the Belgard permeable pavers. So those are the two products that are being chosen.
Okay, I can see where the Belgard stone walkway allows people to walk up the driveway and then over to the front door with avoiding the grass paver. Is that the rationale?
That's part of the rationale, yes.
Okay. And I hope they have small vehicles.
It is tight but functional, yes.
No? Are you going to put any little curb blocks on the?
At this point, it's not called
exterior?
for. We did not call for any edging material at this point. It'll just be the grass pave edger. That'll be the conforming sides.
You might be on call. Okay, I think I understand that now. I was a little confused
Sure.
by the material change. The new basement door, is that, not door, but the wall? Was there an existing wall there?
There is not. No, there's not a wall there.
Is that door newly cut into the foundation?
It will be, yes.
And then the drainage at the base of the stair, where is that going?
That will be discharged at the edge or towards the rear of the property. If you look on the plan right there. I'm sorry, that will be discharged at the rear of the property. I'm usually pretty loud too, sorry. Sorry. Yes, and we have noted that right there at the top of the plan, discharge from the sump pump.
Is it a dedicated sump pump?
It is.
for that?
Yes, sir.
That it does not serve the rest of the basement?
It does not.
Carolyn,
Yeah. David, grass pavers and other pavement, that permeable pavement is not considered to be, give any benefit for impermeability or permeability, correct?
That's correct. It meets,
Yes,
even
I'm
if
sorry.
these, no, you're fine. Even if these were not permeable, it would, I mean, it meets. It's limited to the 55%, but the 55% is not reduced or swayed by the fact that these are permeable.
Thank you for that clarity. One concern I do have, if you ever go to Missouri Botanical Garden and all of their, well, at least parts of their parking lots, they have these pavers there. And when you look at them, when you drive on them, they're sand and dirt. There used to be grass within the holes. If MoBot can't make it work, I'm a little worried that the clients are going to be a little disappointed.
I would have preferred all permeable pavers. The client wanted to do the grass pavers. I concur with your assessment.
At least they're concrete and not the plastic ones.
They are
that
concrete.
Down wide out
They
in the
are-
center that I trip over when I'm running.
They are concrete. That is,
Okay.
Bogart makes a nice concrete.
Okay, I
product,
just
so
want to make sure because in
We-
that
we
turn
agree.
radius,
We agree.
yeah, the turn radius, the cars that are going to be driving are going to be pushing them and, knocking them. So they're going to crack, they're going to crumble. That's just my expert opinion as a landscape architect and have tried this before many times and it doesn't work. The other comment I have on that, what might help a little bit is if your cross section had less compaction, perhaps of the earth below, maybe there's a gravel layer underneath so that you can actually,
I think we just put in the specs, the manufacturer specs on this, but
Okay.
yes, I would be open to, it's not incorrect. No, something a little bit more.
yeah, 3 inches and 1
manageable.
inch. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to just shift around
Agreed.
everywhere.
Agree.
Okay, that was my only, the other comment was thank you for removing the Bradford pears. Because
Always.
I drive out 44 and even anywhere now on the highway out 40, you see them plopping and everybody's like, oh, what pretty white flower trees. It's like, no, they're taking over. It's like the invasion of the tree snatchers, I mean, it's forest
As you know.
snatchers, I should say. So thank you for
Happy to
doing-
help. Happy to help.
Yes, thank you. That's all I had.
Bob? Ellen?
Yes, I have a similar concern about those grass pavers. They're, from what I see on the drawing, unless if I'm in a car and I've got a passenger and me, then one of us is going to be walking across the grass pavers.
Got about, it's very tight, depending on, if you notice we've got the drop off area is where I'm hoping that parking occurs. So that generally that large space right there, that's going to give enough room for that to occur. To your point, it is definitely tighter at the 2 radius points coming through there to avoid walking on the grass pavers. Having said that, the grass paver is still more solid than just grass itself, if you will, in terms of the way that functions.
But the fact that you have the 2 different surfaces underfoot and a man's foot can usually span it and they're not wearing high heels unless cowboy boots. For a woman, women's shoes leave much to be desired many times. But it's a reality that is a concern. But more than that, because if the owners do it to themselves, they'll have to live with it, is what it's going to look like. I mean, as Carolyn pointed out, MoBot hasn't been successful. The Masonry Institute on Big Ben, they were not successful. So unless you're going to be taking care of these little plots of grass, it concerns me that Clayton will be, and the neighbors will be looking at mud.
The small amount of square footage that the grass pavers make up. Client assures me that they will be well maintained. That's all I can offer. I personally will not be maintaining that, but that's the assurances I've been given.
Can I jump in? A quick question?
Yeah.
Or quick comment? One thing, have your clients look up a website called Steppables.
Okay.
It's a plant. Have you heard of it? You look like you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Because some of that worked at the Cascades. We used it on the Cascades in Forest
Right.
Park, and because everybody was climbing that without permission.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing.
I appreciate your comments.
I have no
Amy?
comment.
Listening to that discussion and looking at the plan on A1, would you consider running the stone walkway straight down? Because any car that's going to be coming through is going to be curved and be off the walkway by the time you get to the point of opening the doors.
Tell me exactly where you're thinking, so I can understand your question.
The lower left corner
Mhm.
of the Urbana stone walkway
Okay,
is close to the center of the grass paver. If that point could be taken all the way down to where it intersects, that's it. Intersects
approach?
the interior circle, I think it might preserve it a little bit more.
set this up. I don't think that's a problem, if that's what you're asking.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm suggesting it not as a prerequisite for our approval, but for you to suggest it to the owner.
I will do so, yeah.
And Carolyn, thank you for the drawing. Ira, any comments? David, and, oh,
I do not, Steve, thanks.
thank you, David.
No comments.
We do have one staff recommendation. A right-of-way use permit shall be obtained from the Department of Public Works for any work occurring in the city's right-of-way, which this will be. You agree to that?
I do, sir.
Then we can go on. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you.
When will we see this done?
Probably start in about 6 weeks.
Thanks
Wish
very
us luck on the
much.
grass. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to new business number 4, 7701 Maryland Avenue.
The subject property is located at the northwest corner of Maryland Avenue and Hanley Road with additional frontage on Linden Avenue. The site is currently developed with a religious institution and accessory structure. The applicant is proposing the installation of a ground-mounted sign in the southeast corner of the property near the intersection of Maryland Avenue and Linden Avenue. The proposed sign is 26 square feet in total area with 13 feet on each plane. There is an existing ground sign on the property near the Maryland and Hanley intersection, which will be removed in association with the request for the proposed ground sign. The proposed ground sign will depict the name of a single tenant, but is 1 square foot larger than the maximum allotment of 25 square feet. Per the city's sign regulations, the ARB shall have the authority to determine the appropriate location, size, or number of signs, provided that the intent of the regulations is met. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed sign is compatible with the surrounding area, particularly given the large size of the site and the primary entry being located off of Linden and Maryland, away from the more visible corner of Maryland and Hanley. Staff's recommendation is to approve the request for a ground sign with the following condition to be addressed prior to issuance of the building permit. The applicant shall submit a landscape plan for the ground area surrounding the sign. I'd also like to note that the applicant did email me after the staff report went out with the landscape plan. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Okay, how are you, Gary?
Good, good.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit more background. It was mentioned, but we inherited a sign, sort of a kiosk sign at the corner of Hanley and Maryland. That was there for the Journey, the church that we bought the property from. And temporarily, while we were going through construction up until now, we've been using that as our primary sign. What it does, though, is it attracts people to the wrong place. Visitors are walking around the building trying to figure out how to get in. The front door to our building is on Linden Avenue. Also, delivery people, same thing. They're walking around our building. And we said, well, we've got to take that sign down and erect a sign that's at the corner of Linden and Maryland. So hopefully we'll orient people to the front of our building.
What took so long?
Well, living it, when you move into a space and live in it, you learn a lot about it. And, we're finally breaking out of the pandemic and we're using our building and living in it. And you see some of the problems with it.
Glad to see it changing.
Yeah, me too.
I like the sign. I think it's understated and it uses the color graphic at the top that repeats throughout the synagogue. And it ties together and it certainly answers where is the front door.
Yes. And I also put our address on there so people are familiar with what our address is. Yeah.
I have a friend from Washington, D.C. who was in town a couple weeks ago and went over and could not find the front door. So I helped him out with it. And then luckily he also had a full tour.
Oh, good.
I think it looks good. It's the right thing to do. I know even though the door does not face Maryland Avenue, the address of the property, the signage is in the right place now. So I certainly support it. Carolyn?
Thank you.
Did you consider a curved sign that people could see from both sides, at least see part of it from both sides instead of two exact same things?
Well, this sign sort of is angled so you could see it from both directions.
No, I know. It just seems
Right.
like it's two. And if you did one, you'd see at least part of the name.
Yeah, we were worried you wouldn't read it right from either side. So we wanted to make sure that you could read it from either side. And obviously the Maryland side is the most important for people to see because as you approach the building, you approach it usually from Maryland Avenue. Yes, thank you.
I don't know what you guys submitted for a landscape plan, but with the colors of the sign, you could have a lot of fun with the base of that sign and designing the.
Well, right now we prefer, we have a landscape plan for the entire site.
Good, okay.
But in this particular place on this corner, it's mostly just grass. And unfortunately, a lot of our grass was destroyed by the city because they redid that corner. I don't know why they redid that corner, but they built it up because it looked like there was a lot of erosion happening there. There's a real fall off on that corner. So we need to get grass growing there again.
Nope, that's all I had. Otherwise, it looks good.
Yes, thank you.
Helen?
Yes, I have a question about the font that you used on the sign.
Mhm.
And I'm fine with the upper and lower case, but why did you change from the font that is on the building?
The font that I'm showing here is the actual logo that I designed for Colrena, and it's the font that we use on all of our identity materials. The building font was primarily chosen by the architect, and the intent was they wanted to put a font there that could last for 100 years, just in case the logo 10 years from now, I am gone and a new graphic designer comes along, wants to change the logo. It won't really affect what we do on the building. As you can see, the building has sort of a sans serif, very generic looking type font.
Yeah. That's,
But that's a good question. I asked the same question too when I saw that sign going up, like, why did they choose that font? It's just kind of a normal font. And they said they wanted something that would perhaps outlive the logo.
Okay, I would think, and I would hope that your logo would outlive the signs.
I hope so too, because I'm the graphic designer who designed the logo, and I hope that it would last. I also designed the City of Clayton's logo, and that's lasted for, wow, over 20 years now.
Okay, no, it was just the difference between the two, and I didn't know if it was arbitrary, a sign designer said, oh, this is what we'll go with. But you've spent time on it, so I'm good with it.
Yeah, and it was probably easier to fabricate too. They did show it to me, before they put it up, and I said, okay, because at least they used a font that I use on all of our wayfinding signage within the building. So that part, it does match, but it doesn't match our logo font. Thank you.
Amy,
I have no comment.
Ira,
No comment. I have no further comments.
okay, thank you. David?
No comments.
No? Okay, and I guess you've already met the staff recommendation about the landscape plan.
Yeah, we submitted our landscape plan that Pattern Ives put together for us.
Okay, good. Well, then, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make it a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
We have now come to item 5 on new business, 8007 Clayton Road.
The 5,760 square foot site is located on the north side of Clayton Road, west of Crescent Drive. The property contains a 2,475 square foot single office building with a tuck under front entry garage. The applicant is proposing a series of changes in order to renovate the front facade along Clayton Road. The existing building is constructed of red brick with prominent white columns and white window frames and door surround. The existing columns and pediment are proposed to be removed, and the existing parapet will be expanded to the extent required to conceal the existing pitch asphalt shingle roof beyond it. The front entry garage will be redesigned to provide improved access and height, and the planter to the east of the garage is proposed for removal. To modernize the existing building, the applicant has also proposed to introduce black elements to the facade. A black prefabricated canopy is proposed over the front entry door, which will be painted black along with the transom. Black painted horizontal bands will be added to the facade with the top of the parapet painted black to match. The remainder of the facade will be painted in Sherwin-Williams aesthetic white, with the north facade to be painted in the Sherwin-Williams pewter cast. Surrounding buildings are primarily constructed of brick and other masonry materials. Although the primary color and material of nearby buildings is red brick, this stretch of Clayton Road features a diverse color palette, with some buildings being constructed from red brick and others comprised of varying shades of beige, gray, and white. The proposed color changes will be compatible with surrounding properties and will provide the subject structure with a more updated and clean appearance. Staff's recommendation is to approve as submitted, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you.
How are you?
Fine.
Thank you.
Are you Mr. Lawrence?
No, I'm Justin Taylor. I own the building. Mr. Lawrence couldn't be here and he had sent an email.
And you said you're the building owner?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And anything to add to the staff report?
The main purpose for all of the changes that we're making is the current garage, which would house about 10 vehicles beyond the parking that we have out back to the building. You cannot park any SUV downstairs. The overhang on the front of the building is too low. You can barely fit regular cars in the front of the building to get to the garage. The pillars that are on the front of the building that are non-load bearing sit above the access point of the building, which is what's causing us to try to make a lot of these changes to the building itself, is so we can actually make that garage accessible for the vehicles. So we have enough parking for it's my real estate brokerage that's inside, is the main reason that we're making a lot of these changes, because what the overhang over that where the pillars sit. And so what would happen is trying to carry a load up, we would have to cut the beams almost in half and then try to match it on the other side of the building, which would produce we think, a far worse look of the building. And it wouldn't solve the problem of what we're dealing with, which is accessing our garage. So we submitted a proposal to, obviously, considering they're not load bearing, to be able to do that. And then also looking at other buildings on Clayton Road that were painted white. Clayton Pilates Studio, and there's another building up the road. We got some ideas from them to add some white and dark colors to our building.
Well, thank you for detailing the garage entry problem, which is forcing everything else.
Forcing all these, I'm not thrilled to be spending the money that we're spending. We just renovated the whole inside of the building, and the exterior of the building, if anybody's been past it, is well past its due date. There's brick falling off of it. We have to rebuild all of the retaining walls out front. The current beds leak water into the garage. It's because the building's been very ill-maintained when I purchased the building, and we're trying to get everything up. We just closed out all of our permits on the interior with Clayton 2 or 3 weeks ago and just moved in. So.
Well, I would agree with you on the appearance on the Clayton Road side. However, when you remove that Roman temple effect, I find the result is really uninspiring. It's plain. It has no redeeming architectural articulation. There's no detail to it. The canopy now looks just stuck on. I wish there were something going on there to help. Also, the building now looks like it almost has a third floor, because the parapet has been raised dramatically on the east and west side to cover up the peak of the roof running north-south. I wish I could find something positive. The only positive that I see is your description of the problem with getting into the garage. The rest of it, the doorway seems minuscule now. It actually had some detail around it. I know it was more antique looking. There were some coins over the windows, or keystones rather. Everything seems to have been removed, and the building looks just totally naked now. In fact, more naked than the other buildings along Clayton Road that are painted white, because there's more articulation on them. But I think I've said enough. Farrell.
Hi, yeah, this is a walking route for me. I go to Gladden Hair for my hair. I go to the nail place on Clayton Road for my nails. I go to Kitchen Conservatory down the road from this.
2 doors down from me.
Yeah, exactly. So I pass by this all the time.
Sure.
I think it's a unique looking building. I'm not sure if it was designed and proposed to us right now, it would fit. And no, not what you did. This, if somebody came into here with the temple looking thing, I would be like, what's going on here?
Right.
But I tend to agree with Steve Lichtenstein, Steve, on the flatness of the face. It seems like a little articulation would be great. I'm a little not clear what the color really is, and why the back would need to be painted as well. But I just wonder if it's a little bit too stark with the color contrast, the white and the black. Like maybe it could be something that's a little less stark and cold.
So a lot of what we're seeing, I mean, I sell real estate for a living. Most buildings and homeowners and things, a lot of homeowners that we work with and stuff are currently, like one of my owners that lives in Frontenac, one of my agents in Frontenac, they just finished, I live in an all-white ranch. People are putting black on their windows and putting the black trim on their roofs and everything to where it really ties everything together. Looking at the Clayton Pilates studio up the road, you can see it's white and black and it shows very well. It looks very nice. If I had my druthers about me in regards to the building, I would have a different exterior on my building, no doubt. This is obviously one of the downsides, the reason the building sat on the market for over a year and had numerous price reductions and nobody was interested in this building. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I would prefer to have never bought a building with columns on the front of it. It's not my particular style. And we're not, all we're looking to do, I'm not a large corporation. I'm a small business owner here in Clayton. Like I said, I own a residential real estate brokerage and I sell houses for a living. It was a huge step for me to make. I've leased space in Clayton my whole entire life that I've been in real estate. And we are trying to find a solution. It is not necessarily a cheap solution by any stretch to make the building obviously something far beyond where it currently stands, which looks like an old bank or something that is from far beyond the times that we're currently living. Considering the building that's standing to the left of me as a flat facing building as well, that is in a beige color. We were trying to, understanding we would be standing here tonight before you guys. We were trying to make sure, we hired interior designers for the inside of our building and everything that we did in there is Class A space to finish off the interior of our buildings, new floors, new everything to make sure it was a nice building for people to walk into. We want to do everything we can to conform and to make everything look as nice as we can on the front of the building. The problem is even if you leave the building red and we try to match the brick, it's not going to match as we go up. And there's going to be grout lines and everything. So the building has to be painted. And the woman that did the interior design of my building is the woman that brought forth the colors for the exterior of the building. And looking at what was around us as well. And, it's not, again, I understand everyone, I understand having a flat facing building, but it will match up right next to the building that's next to us and in line with it. And we are not taller than the building next to us. Although as you had mentioned, sir, that the parapet wall or how the wall is going to be brought up, unfortunately, it's about the solution, one of the very few solutions that we see as a possibility to this building. To be able to, take care of the roof line because there's a pitch in that roof. If it was flatter and that roof line was lower, we wouldn't have that issue, obviously.
I think one of the things we might be reacting to with looking at this is that you have zero landscape shown in the graphic.
Yeah, and the front wall's not done and everything else and all of that. I wish I could show you what we've done and the amount of time that we've spent on the interior of this building to bring it. We ripped out all of the bathrooms, made it handicap accessible, put in all new flooring, new HVAC. There's been over close to $200,000 put on the inside of the building. It was left, the previous owner passed away on Highway 64 and his son left everything in the building. It was like a ghost walked out of that building when we got our hands on it and we had to haul out like 5 dumpsters worth of junk and stuff. It
Hope
was.
you found some treasures in that, though.
The creative services building, we're going to put up an article in our building about it, but, and it was previously owned by a Cardinals player, but the creative services building, they used to do embroidery on a bunch of stuff. So there's a lot of Remingtons and things and really nice things in the building that we were able to give to charities and then give back to other places. But unfortunately, we were just kind of handed a mess.
Is there any way on the windows to keep the keystone and the detailing of that brick, or is this a Photoshop rendering that just didn't get to detail?
When you say the keystoning of
The little, in the center of the windows, these. Much noise in the microphone. When you look at it,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
detail that goes around it.
That's all brick. It's not going to
Okay, so it's
that's
just
not-
not showing on the
It's just not
facade.
showing. But that's not going to be.
That's what I was asking.
That's
It's
part
just
of the building.
Photoshop and, yeah.
Is the brick, does it project around the windows or?
That's the brick. If I can get it.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Because we have also seen in painted facades that a surround around a window can be made in a.
That's part of the brick around.
Yeah, there's a detail on it.
Yeah, so that's not.
There's little sills
That's not
underneath
changing.
too.
Could be you could have your designer work with a complementary color that may give a little more prominence to the window. Even the front door could use a little more prominence. The proposed door looks like an afterthought compared to the one with the large wood surround.
A lot of that wood surround that's there is why.
Yeah.
Part of it. Unopposed. Trying to just put like a black door on the front. Drawings are not a particular drawing.
Mhm.
You guys. A lot of those pieces you were mentioning are at in the door that we. Color that it's rounded or.
Well, I think we've been talking about what could be done simply to give a little more articulation.
Yeah,
and
understood.
prominence to doors and windows.
Yeah.
Or to the door.
Yeah.
Let's continue. We have,
The windows on the building are black. In this window you're seeing, and this that you're seeing, they are white, but they are black now.
Like you've left the iron on the windows as well.
yeah, you
Okay.
have more, Carolyn,
No, I didn't. Thank you.
Bob?
Justin?
Ellen?
Okay, the third floor that Steve mentioned on the front facade, that bothers me. It's too heavy, it's too blank. What if you went to page CV.2A in the lower right corner, where you see the side, the top side of the building, and you took the front porch and cut it off maybe 1.5 inches to say a number. and left that profile and left the two parapets on the side. And then took that profile, which is the existing roof as it goes back to the rear elevation. If you took and then came in with trim, working with your architect to do a neat trim, you would keep that line that would break that third floor. And you're not building up any more brick. A taller parapet concerns me. You're going to spend a lot on structural stability of it. Just take off the porch. I understand that, and I know you need access for the garage, and the columns do date it. But you've got the beginnings of a more contemporary building with the canopy over the front door. Then take, and if you did that triangular piece in a dark color, the colors don't bother me as much as the facade, what that looks like. But use that angle. It picks up some of the old, but it does it in a very contemporary way. Do you follow, or am I?
Yeah, of course, unfortunately, I'm not the design guys or the guys that actually work on the front of the building to say, yeah, that's a possibility, or I just don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
as
you're
far as
taking off that porch,
the whole porch,
but
yeah.
keeping that, the front that's behind the porch, which obviously comes this way and then this way at the parapets, but just take that shape down to the east and west walls and extend it out. It would give a little bit of shadow there. Use a couple of 2x6s, 2x10s, 12s, whatever you need to get something that doesn't look puny. But build it out maybe 6 inches or so. And it will,
You're basically saying, cut the current building where we have it with the pillars, and you want to move it back a couple of feet, and then just leave the same front on the building is what you're, is that what
yeah,
you're
leave
saying?
the front but just keep, if you take off the front porch, you've got a shape that is like this, right? And then you've got 2 parapet walls coming out on the sides above that. If you come back and trim out trim pieces, build it out a couple of inches, then you've got that shape which breaks that whole third floor.
Are you saying that he should maybe consider keeping the same roof line?
Keep that roof line, yeah.
Angles.
Yeah,
Yes.
but if you build it out a bit and give it more prominence
Push it out so it.
and
it's
darken
overhang.
it.
Right.
Not keep the actual full facade though.
Pardon?
I don't think you're saying keep the columns and keep all that.
Oh, no,
No,
no, take that
no.
off, slice it off.
And do
and-
something more.
Yeah,
improved.
it's,
It would cut what we've called the third floor almost in half, because you would keep the 2 angles, and it would lower the appearance of the building. Helen, would you also put brackets there to make it look like there's some support?
yeah, I mean, you can get rid of this and just use what you've got.
Justin, we're only throwing out ideas. We're
Yeah.
not trying to design it.
No,
You'll have to go back to your architect with any ideas you may want to convey. But we see some real issues here. And I'm sorry, Helen, I broke in.
no. I think I'm just throwing out ideas, and I think that would be cheaper than trying to do building up brick. because parapet walls and good winds like we get are issues. And you've got snow and ice you've got to deal with as you build it up. You can trap more snow and ice and then windblown debris. And then the view from Crescent as people walk south, you can see that your building is taller than the adjacent. So I think it might be a less expensive solution, and I think it might look like a better, end result for you. But it's yours. I'm done.
Amy?
Okay, so I like that idea also. But if for whatever reason, I like the idea of removing the columns and cleaning up the front of that building. I think that's a good idea. And if you need to like eliminate that, little Romanesque feature on it, I just think painting it slightly different than what you've shown might add a little bit more interest. If you're talking about, well, first of all, I would prefer it just to be brick, not painted, because I think that would help with it staying kind of classic Clayton, with your awning and even, a couple stripes, but leaving it not painted. But I can understand the concern of adding more brick and not being able to, match it. But I wonder if it's just a very stark, black and white. And I can appreciate like what you were saying about, houses and things like that going in that trend. But I just think there just needs to be a little bit more thought if you're going to go with kind of more of that flat facade than just like a couple stripes. I do like your idea though. I think that would add some dimension and some just interest to the front of the building. And I think that unfortunately the Photoshop job doesn't do it justice, because I know there will be texture with the brick and things like that, and then around the windows and such. But I think there's just needs to be a little bit more thought put into that, the front design of it.
In regards to what you were saying, as far as the front, seems cost prohibitive to cut off the front of a building to move it back 3 feet. If we just carried the load off the front awning, if you guys want the front awning to stay on the building, and I just carried, there's really not much of a load to it, but just carried a beam back to the side of the building to hold it up, would that be sufficient for you? Because otherwise what we're talking about is cutting it off and then moving it back 3 feet and placing it on the building. Sorry, when it already sits there.
No, I wouldn't move anything back. I would just slice off the porch.
So you're saying leave it, we're gonna have to probably support it some way.
No, take off the porch and the columns.
Those are all gonna be gone. I get that, but I'm talking about,
You're talking the
I'm talking about the
overhang.
triangle on the top of the building that you're talking about.
I would just do something that you can build up with a couple of 2x.
So you're saying, take it, currently sits off the building like right now like this, so put something that can come down onto the building instead. Because that overhang by itself, right, sits out, and to me, it seems silly to cut it and then move it back a couple of feet to push it up closer to the building. You're not saying that, you're just saying re-support it, but not with beams.
In essence, you can do it with some 2x, nailed to the brick
Right.
and build it out, maybe a crown mold or something else, so that it's not totally flat. It has maybe 3-4 inches of depth. Just some wood trim pieces. Look at some of the older homes and you'll see where they've done that. And it keeps a wall from being totally blank. It pulls out and accentuates a roof line. But nothing more than a couple of 2x flat against the brick.
Would you be opposed if we left the current, because we're gonna have to cut the roof line to do that? So just leave the roof line where it currently sits and then re-support it up against the building. Is anybody opposed? Are you guys opposed to that? So I at least know when I talk to David, when we start to go over this, what our options may be.
It projects about 3 feet. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
A couple of feet out, yeah, where the beams come out, it's probably 2 to 3 feet. Because do that, then I've got to, the minute if we were going to cut it back and lay brick, right, we were completely coming off with the whole front. But to cut it back, to then reface it the exact same way, just for 2 to 3 feet, when I could just leave it and pull the beams out from under it and re-support it. To me, if we're talking about solutions and cost savings, it would be much more if I could leave the roof line. If you guys like the current roof line of the building, the way that it currently sits, I'll leave it. And then maybe put two type of beams back onto the building where it comes off the building a little bit. That way the roof line stays the same. We can do something different with the paint or do the colors up there that keeps the original structure. The only thing you guys are missing from what the building originally looked like would be the columns.
Judging from walking by there and looking at the pictures on CV2A, I think if we were to do that, the remaining triangular pediment would look too heavy and overwhelming. What Helen is suggesting that you consider is, and it's assuming that there's brick behind it, that the brick wall goes all the way up, I would assume, but we don't know
Yeah.
about that. Whatever it is to put decorative molding on there to replicate that triangle, but not have it projecting much more than 6-8 inches at most.
Yeah.
So that you're not overhanging. It would be closer to the back.
Closer to the back.
Yeah.
Have less brick to put on.
You're just saying leaving it as a peak. Even if we
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
it in brick, you just want it as a peak like that?
Yeah.
And it could be painted. It doesn't have to be brick. It probably has brick behind it right now,
Yeah.
judging from the 2 parapet portions sticking up on either end. We need to leave that up to the architect. We're only giving you ideas because I don't think you would get an approval on the A2.1S appearance of the front of the building. Another thing I might add is maybe that canopy could be a little softer, maybe a curve, like an eyebrow, that would be a little bit different and give a little more focal point to it, because the straight, flat one fits in with all the straight, flat lines, and it doesn't really say this is the entrance. So we still have a couple more comments. Ira?
Sorry, I was talking and I was muted. But I like the comments made by our board. And I think they're all good comments. So I don't like painted. I've made that clear in previous times. But otherwise, I agree with the comments made. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. David?
Same concern that I think has been expressed by others, and I'm certainly not a designer, but the white parapet above the windows needs some sort of treatment. So I would agree with what's been said.
Thank you. I don't see any attendees and no one else in the audience. We do have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted, but I'd like to recommend changing that to table it to give you time to come back with your architect's suggestions on how we can improve the appearance of the front facade.
Okay. And in regards to the paint color, because the minute I walked into the building tonight, there was comments about the paint color from people up here. Do I have to start looking at different colors to paint my building at this point? This gentleman, Robert, was mentioning he personally didn't like the color of the building before the meeting even started. I don't know if it's a personal decision, but we looked at the paints on Clayton Road and what other buildings were painted when we started this to assume that we would be okay in getting that approved. Do I have to start looking at other paints too when I come back? I just want to make sure I understand what I'm walking back into next time.
Well, you might want to discuss that with your architect or designer. Maybe there's a little softer color scheme than just a stark white and obsidian black in there. You know, you can be off-white, there could be a buff color, there could be a light gray color that would connote light with dark trim that might fit on that street just as well, or even better than the starkness that we see here.
Okay, and if we come back and we have the pitch that's on the front and we're looking at options for that for you with extra colors in it, regardless if they're black and it's more defined out, is that something that, you know, I guess where my confusion comes in as an owner, when I sell houses and I look somewhere and I say, well, the neighbor has a wrought iron fence and it wasn't grandfathered in, you know, and it's in, you know, everything, you can have a wrought iron fence in the subdivision as long as it goes through. It's usually what I'm telling my homeowners, and it's on, you know, the stuff. Is it a color that would be approved with your board?
Right now, you know, it's hard to answer that.
Sure.
I would think we would take a look at it. I think what you're hearing is that maybe the white with the black may not be the right color scheme. So I would leave it open. We've thrown out a few suggestions that leave it to the design process.
Okay.
Carolyn, do you want-
Can I ask you a question? Is gray a more preferred color?
Well, can I interject here?
Sure.
I actually don't think that we can say you can't paint it white, frankly, because there are other buildings painted white. I don't think that's our position on this board to say that. I think what we're mostly objecting to is the flat facade. So we don't want to take away from somebody's huge design intention if it's elsewhere in Clayton. Clearly it is. So you might come back. Who knows, one of us might be ill that day or something. You might come back with pictures of the other buildings that are white. That typically helps to sway. I think most of our objections were more about maybe it's almost the Photoshop, frankly, and the pitch of that roof and the third floor addition is what I'm hearing mostly that is objectionable. But I might be speaking for everyone, and I don't want to do that. So.
Oh. All right.
Then I do recommend that we table. Typically, we put a date on it, like to the next meeting. But I think maybe it should be to when you're comfortable to reapply.
Okay. And when do we have to have in stuff for the next application to make your next meeting?
Anissa, when would that be?
I could take it as late as a week from now.
Okay.
Okay.
I make a motion that we table this discussion until the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Justin. Well, that brings us to the end tonight, and let's go around the room. Kami, any other comments or questions?
No comment.
Helen?
Nothing further to add.
Oh. Oh, really?
Are you kidding me? I love him. Why?
Well, we're gonna shoot it for a week in New York and
Oh,
the other photographers.
so you're going to the show or you're on the show?
No, we're not gonna be here.
Oh, God, that would have been so much fun. Well,
I don't know why not.
maybe he'll have an audience thing and you just have to be. That's wonderful. What fun.
So some of your photography work will be shown?
No, no. we're
No, they're just
gonna
going to be
shoot.
there.
Oh, just shoot.
It's a party.
That's the place to
Well,
do it.
good. Well,
Congratulations. That's fun. That's a lot
we'll
of
hear
fun.
about it at the next meeting.
Or that night. We watch it every single night. So.
Right.
I have nothing, no, I have nothing else except for that it's nice to be here in person again.
Ira? Any
Anything
further comment?
further, Steve? Thank you so much.
Okay. Stephanie, we see you now.
I don't have anything for this evening.
Okay. Thanks for joining. David?
Nothing further.
Anissa, any words for the future?
No, just we have some big PUDs coming up, so just look for those on the upcoming agendas and I'll keep you updated.
Okay. Well, with
All right,
that,
it's-
we'll see you on May 2nd, I believe it is.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.